in your experience with coaching, you can't be that person necessarily for everybody at all times and carry a load of people that you're working with. How do you solve that problem? Or do you see that problem crop up?
So allow me to go back to how I found the coach for John Doe.
Okay.
And, it sort of ashames me today by saying that all of that applied in terms of criteria to get to that selection.
Sure.
It's just referrals, right? I rang up a few HRDs and the mothership and said, I have this particular challenge with this one gentleman. And do you know of any coaches that work in that area? And I got a few names. I vetted a few of those, and 3 of them I paired up to have a chemistry conversation with John, and he decided to go ahead with one of those. Now, I wrote the guide to select the coach that's right for you about 5 years ago, because every single HR person that I spoke with had the exact same challenge, which is, I'm not even sure what to look for when I am bringing in a coach, either for myself or for someone in the organization, to make sure that they are the right fit. And so, without getting into the full detail of the 10 criteria, I call them the golden criteria, because everything is golden in my world. The golden criteria on selecting the right coach. Some of those golden criteria are things like credentials, right? Mm-hmm. Now, there are, just in the German-speaking area, this is Germany, Austria, Switzerland, 7 different coaching associations that certify and accredit coaches. Now, I can tell you, of someone who spent most of his life in Germany, I wouldn't know the difference between association number 3 and 5, right? But I know one thing, which is there is one body of work. This is the International Coaching Federation. That is the only international credible association body for coaching. So that means that when I am looking for a credential, I will go with the gold standard in coaching, which is the ICF. And by doing that, I will make sure that whoever I'm pre-selecting is at least legit and genuine and has gone through a rigorous or, solid training as a coach. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I find that interesting because, 50% of my coaching clients in 23 and 22 have been CEOs. And again, I never started out to become the CEO coach. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, most of my clients that started to come to me initially were HRDs and CHROs, because they just saw the HR experience that I had and they felt intrigued by that. They felt that it will be right to work with someone who understands the world and knows a thing or two about them. Yep. And so when I then have someone who speaks to me and wants to do some joint work or wants to join me for some pitches to corporates and so on, and they call themselves CEO coach, and then I ask them, how many CEOs have you coached and what kind of organization size and level were they at? There's very little to evidence against, right? So again, it's things like this that ultimately will make sure that whoever, is selected or pre-selected as a coach is really having the maximum impact possible if the client, has the chemistry and would like to proceed with them. And of course, there's a whole host of different other things we could do, but I just gave away 2 or 3 of the selection criteria to make sure that whoever is in this position, and, allow me by saying that whoever wants to get their hand on this guide, just send me a LinkedIn invite or a message. I will send that guide for free. It's not something I'm selling, to just help them to get a little closer to the coach that would serve them in the most effective way.
So what type of coach do you think generally, as you've experienced working with CEOs, what type of personality or mindset jives well with your classic kind of high level CEO type person?
Yeah, I mean, some of those criteria are sometimes the CEO has a particular industry challenge. And so they are new to an industry and they seem to be struggling to really be effective in that industry. I think it's legitimate in that case to look for a coach that's been working with CEOs in that particular sector. Right? Okay. Because there's cross-industry learnings and best practice that may be applicable to them as well. Now, coaching is not mentoring. It's not like every single session I'm offering some advice to my client.
Yeah.
That being said, if I'm aware of certain practices, if I have seen things working at the highest level and the client is open to receive that, here and there, it would be foolish not to offer it up to them and ask for the permission to offer it up to them. So that's one of the things. The other thing I would say is I know incredible coaches who did the study 30 years back, and all they have done is coaching. Now, they are very experienced as coaches, but they have zero embodied experience of what it's like to work in a corporation, to be exposed to commercial pressures, to have ever interacted with the board of directors or the chairman or the chairwoman, to really have a deep appreciation for how difficult it could be. I had 3 line managers when I joined this fast-moving consumer goods company in Germany. I was a European head of HR. I had a local HRD that was in charge of Germany technically. Then I had my regional HR person, and then I had the global HR person. So I had 3 bosses to report to, right? And so if you have never been exposed to that matrix type of organization setup, well, if that is the challenge that your client is struggling with, all you can add value in your coaching is from hearsay at most.
Yep.
And so again, there are always things that the client can be looking for by making sure that they apply the top 10 golden criteria in a way that makes sense for them. And by the way, what may make sense for Brian as the CEO of this tech consulting business may be fundamentally different than for Navid, who is a solopreneur and is running a coaching practice. And so that's the other angle to that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've found in my past the people that end up being the best impact on me are the people that are willing to say the tough things and point out things that might be ego damaging to me if I'm not willing to get beyond that in order to, like you coached before, be willing to get better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And allow me by adding one more angle to this, which is when we train to become coaches and we do it the proper way, it's a bit like becoming a GP. You're a general practitioner. A broken finger, a bruised skin, or a flu, you can treat all of them with a reasonable likelihood of success, right? But God forbid, Brian, if I had a serious heart condition, the last person I would want to talk to is my GP, although I love him, right? Because I would want to go to speak to the deep cardiac expert that has 20 plus years of deep experience in this particular challenge that I'm faced with as a patient. And so the same analogy applies to coaching, right? The reason I became who I am today is because I specialize early in my coaching practice. I don't coach anyone and everyone on anything and everything. I only coach C-level clients when they are going through a career transition. That's all I do.
Of which you've had a lot of experience, right?
Exactly. And if I could write that book just based on my own experience, which is not what I did, but if I wanted to write a book about it, it would probably be worth a book.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching one of the clips from the Business Line podcast. If you want to see the full episode, click up here.
And if you want to see more fun clips, click up here.